Now let's go to classic man. Classics is yin and yang mixed together in a blender. Mix, mix, mix. We get a very average, very evenly spaced body, very moderate, mostly in everything. Again, there's no absolutes in this universe. They are not gonna look same like a mannequin, like a doll. Classics have very certain, very, very blended bone structure. You can't say if they're muscular or if they're not muscular, if they're tall or they're small. They don't have too much flesh, but at the same time they are not super dry. Let's look at some examples. Anthony Perkins. You can see that he's not brutal. Does he look feminine? Does he look super delicate? No. Does he look very muscular? No. Is he super angular? No. It's very balanced for a certain body type. Even when you look on their torso, it's also pretty moderate in everything. Your body can change a lot if you work out, do injections, if you do surgery, pictures, movies, clothes, the angle where he's been shot, everything influences on the way we see them. But if we see them in real life, just to understand how he talks, what kind of gestures he has, so just to see the movement on his body, to understand more his bone structure, because sometimes even on the picture it's pretty hard to understand. I do trust David Kibbe very much because he put his whole life on dressing people according their body types. So Henry Fonda, evenly spaced facial features, very gentleman, but at the same time not small, but not tall, not wide, something in the middle. John Forsyth. So again, you can see how balanced that is, how the skin is lying on their bone structure. You don't see those blunt bones anymore like naturals do have. Everything is smoother. Richard Crenna. Robert Young. Classics can also be softer or sharper. Let's look on sharper classics first. And David Kibbe is calling this body type a dramatic classic. They are also moderate in size, very evenly spaced. They have some angularity in bones. They are slightly more brutal, if we can say so. Cary Grant is one of them. He's slightly brutal in his face, but he doesn't look super tall or super wide or very powerful or very strong. His lips are stronger. Jon Hamm. He is also dramatic classic. Yeah, he looks slightly more brutal than classics, but it's still not enough. Now let's go to soft classics. Soft classics, they are also very balanced, but they are more delicate in bones. Bryant Gumbel, you can immediately see from the distance that his face is slightly smaller, slightly more delicate, slightly softer. You can't call him super cute at the same time. John Glenn is also a soft classic, and you can see some width on his face, some softness basically. It's pretty evenly spaced and pretty moderate in everything. John Slattery. First look at his picture when he was younger. Here you can see his balanced bone structure. Again, it is slightly softer. His lip shape, everything is slightly softer. You can see how the skin is lying on his bones, on his face. It's pretty delicate. When he got older, yes, he did become more brutal, but at the same time, if we compare him to the dramatics, he doesn't look super muscular, super athletic. He's still pretty balanced and he has pretty delicate facial bones. This picture was shot in the style of dramatic. So if you imagine David Craig, for example, being shot with that harsh light, especially the light that is shining from up there, even with his beard, he didn't become as brutal and as masculine as those dramatic guys. Even at that age, even with that beard, and even with that harsh light, with that photography, that is pretty dramatic by itself. Now let's look on soft classics with a question mark. Gregory Peck. Jerry Brown is another example of soft classic. So that's it with classics. So the next body type we're gonna look at is romantic. Romantic is the opposite to dramatic, completely. It's 100% yin, female energy. Female energy doesn't mean that man looks like a woman, of course. In men's world, it just means smaller, softer, rounder, more delicate, no sharp angles, less brutal, maybe more cute, as well as you want to describe it. Let's just look at the examples. Billy D. Williams. You can see some width in his face, some softness. They have soft flesh, softer noses, bigger eyes, softer outlines of the body, just in general. They are smaller, they don't look tall, they look pretty delicate. When they're very young, they look super cute. Christopher Atkins. And even though he has some width in his chest area, as you might see, his whole body looks very delicate. His bone structure looks pretty delicate. He looks soft. His lips, nose and eyes, his cheeks, you know. Even when he got older, you know, you can still see how delicate his bones are, how small they are. And you can see how skin is lying on their bones, you know. Everything is very rounded and soft. Colin Firth. So I can easily see how I can add some lips, some blush, some wig to those men, and they can look pretty close to a woman. It doesn't mean that they look womanly, it's just the whole structure of the face allows us to make so. When you see his naked torso, you can also see some softness in it. You can see some width, but he's not necessarily having that bigger chest and smaller waist and hip area. You can notice that it's approximately kind of same line. That's how they built, you know, very delicate shoulders. You can see they're not massive, they're not angular and blunt. That neck that goes right into the shoulders, that line is pretty rounded as well. Pretty gentle facial features. Very soft looking, big rounded eyes, soft chin, pretty small nose. In this picture you can see how they put mustache in him and some beard. Also he's trying to make here pretty heavy facial expression, but you still can see how gentle the whole structure of his face is. They are harder to make brutal. Elijah Wood, you can see his huge eyes, first of all. You can see that he is not big. He doesn't look massive or long or big or wide or super powerful, you know? Look how gentle his features are. Look at the skin that is lying on the bone structure. They normally have pretty small hands. The way they look, the way they talk, the way they smile. Elvis Presley. You can see also in this picture how his torso is pretty soft and it doesn't have pretty massive shoulders and smaller hip area, right? He is more or less puffy all the way down. These guys normally have that softness in their body. They can easily gain weight, you know, sometimes. You can see that soft outline of the body and of the face of Elvis Presley. John Schneider. You can also see when he was young, how tapered his shoulders are, how rounded is the outline. All those shadows that he has on his body, when the light is shining on him from a certain direction, they are not harsh, they are not brutal, they all are slightly rounded and very gentle. Even when he got older, you can see that he still looks pretty delicate. In his facial bones, in his body, when he's standing just like this, he doesn't look squarish. He does look slightly bended, slightly soft. Leonardo DiCaprio, he's also pretty soft. The whole expression of his face, rounded, very gentle, especially when he was younger. Look at his torso. Again, we don't see that big difference between the chest area and the hip area. Everything goes kind of straight from the chest to the hips. He doesn't look too muscular. I don't know how much he worked out, but Lorenzo Lamas. He sometimes had pretty brutal outfits. Men also liked to do that huge shoulders in the 80s, and even with that you can see how soft and how delicate his face is. Even when he's not shaved and with long wavy hair, you can still see how softly the light is lying on his face. Michael Jackson. Look at him when he was young. He was pretty delicate. He wasn't like athletic, you know, like that huge man. He looked pretty soft and gentle. You can look at his huge eyes and the expression of his face and his soft lips, his soft nose, rounded nose, his wide cheekbones, soft cheeks. His torso wasn't massive. It was pretty delicate. You can perceive how lightweight he was when he was dancing, as if he's gonna just fly. Even after several surgeries on his nose, on his chin, he still stayed same, very delicate and gentle. Michael York, see the softness in his face and in his body. That's him when he got older. Omar Sharif. You can also see the outline is pretty soft, even though he was playing some brutal guys as well, but the face itself stays pretty gentle. Richard Gere. Although his face is slightly on the longer side, you don't perceive him as a long vertical line still. Look at that very soft outline on his face, of his nose. Look at his smile, how soft that is. Look at him when he was younger. Also that tapered shoulder line here. Look at his chest area. It's pretty small, it's not massive, it's not wide. And his lips are very rounded. Simon Baker. Notice how delicate his bones are, how soft his face is. Even when he got older. Notice his lips, his mimic of his face, like when he's smiling, how soft everything looks, you know. Sugar Ray Leonard. He's a sportsman, you can see his muscles, right? But the outline is still romantic. Look at that tapered shoulders, that softer arm line. Look at that chest that goes straight to the hips. It's not widens. He does look pretty small. Even when we compare his head to his shoulders, we can see that he is not super tall, not super massive guy. Look at his face. Look at how skin is lying on his bones, also very soft. There is no body type that can be softer than romantic, because we look at the romantics as a maximum possible softness in the body types. But romantics can have some drama in them, and this drama is showing off in the sharpness of the bones. They are still small, but they are slightly drier, slightly more chiseled. They have slightly sharper bones. David Kibbe is calling that type a theatrical romantic. We can't say dramatic romantic or flamboyant romantic because it's not showing the essence of the type. So that's why he called that theatrical romantic. David Kibbe himself is a theatrical romantic. That's David Kibbe. I didn't find too many pictures of him. That's him with his wife, who is also theatrical romantic. Small, very delicate and soft, with sharper bone structure. That is a theatrical romantic man. Let's look at other examples. Johnny Depp is a great example of theatrical romantic. Very delicate bones. You can see accurate bones on the face. If you look at the body, we also can't see the big difference between small hips and huge chest. So we can see pretty straight torso. It's slightly more bony than romantics. The bones are sharper. That's the difference. They still look pretty delicate and small. They don't look tall or massive or super muscular or super masculine. You can see how great he looks with that small beard and small mustache, very accurately done. You can see some of the sharp features of his face. Sharper nose, sharper lips, sharper eyes. Even the way he looks is slightly sharper. You can see very certain shadows under his cheekbones that is also building his face a certain way. Orlando Bloom, he's slightly more muscular than Johnny, but you still can't perceive him too much as like huge and brutal kind of a man, right? Look at his face. Sharp, very soft, very delicate, but there's some sharper nose, sharper lips, sharper cheekbones. You can see the shadows, and the flesh on them is not super flashy prints. Also small, have delicate bones, also soft, has soft flesh, pretty sharp bones. Even when he's standing like this with a naked torso from a side, that does look slightly more massive here, but in fact he is pretty slim and his rib cage is not wide. Okay, and the last body type is called gamine. Gamine is kind of a boyish type, a teenage type of a body. This is just the essence that you get when you look at them. Okay, let's look at the example of gamines and let's see what we see. Dick Cavett, small, delicate sharp bones. Gamines are normally the smallest. They also have a mixture of yin and yang, but they don't mix too much like in classic. They appear randomly on different parts. They can have huge eyes, which is yin, very soft, right? They can have very delicate bones, which is very soft, very yin. But they can look super straight and lean, you know? It goes for yang. So they have a mixture of that unpredictableness. However, they can't be tall, so they are small and this is their yin part. They have delicate bones, they are cute, they can have a cuter face. Normally when they age, they have younger faces. That all their yin part. And their yang part is their straight bone structure and their sharpness and some angularity. When we look at Dick Cavett here in his body, we can see that he is like a small rectangular. Straight, small. Normally their heads are bigger than their shoulders and the rest of their body, so we can see from the distance that these guys are pretty small. They look pretty small. Gamines normally have pretty taut cheekbones. In their smallishness, they still look masculine. That's what I can see. There's some brutalness going on in their face and their body, but the size is smaller. They have shortened limbs, shorter legs, shorter arms, squarish shoulders. Even though they're small and narrow, they are pretty squarish. That gives them pretty angular appearance. Still, they're not as soft as romantics. Dick Clark. Here's a picture of him when he got older, and you can still see how young the expression of his face is. Big eyes, straight nose, cool smile. The arms are smaller, the hands can be smaller. Dudley Moore, big black eyes, sharp nose, sharp lips, taut cheekbones again. Can be slightly wider cheekbones. It's just the whole expression that we get from the whole body. Joel Grey. Look at that smallishness of his bone structure on his face, you know. Here you can see how small his shoulders are and how sharp his bone structure is. He is over 60 here. He still looks like a young boy. That's him when he was younger. You can see like a small rectangular. That's their shape, you know. Johnny Carson. That's his torso when he got older. You can see that small rectangular that I talked about before. Also not a wide chest and smaller hips, you know. Everything is kind of pretty straight. Red buttons. Richard Pryor. You can also see that small rectangular and pretty taut facial bones. Richard Simmons. Roddy McDowell. Sammy Davis Jr. You can see how playful they are, you know. They feel their style. It's so often I can see how the lifestyle connects to the body type so well. And these people are super balanced in life, you know. They are pretty happy in their own skin. Now, flamboyant gamines. All same, but slightly heavier. Slightly sharper bones, slightly more angular bones. Frank Sinatra. He's one of the flamboyant gamines. Very bright facial features. When he got older, look at his smile, right? Very youthful smile. Here you can see how more angular his facial bones are. He's still a gamine, but a bit heavier and more angular gamine. There's more drama in him, more young. Jimmy Kimmel is probably a flamboyant gamine as well. Again, you can see smaller shoulders, so they don't look super big and massive. They don't have massive rib cage. Still look very compact, very playful, joyful. Neil Patrick Harris. Small, sharp, delicate bones, and actually flamboyant gamines can be slightly more muscular, but they're still small. Small, rectangular, with some muscularity. They're still slightly angular in bones. And of course there are soft gamines. And soft gamines is same as gamine, but they have softer flesh. They easier gain weight. They are slightly cuter. They can have slightly sharper facial features, but it's still very soft. They're close to romantics, but normally they are smaller. Their faces are even smaller. So we have only one example of a soft gamine man. I'm sure there are lots of them, but it's just, as I said before, I keep being as close to the source as possible. I don't dare to type men right now at the moment. Fred Astaire. You can see that he's even smaller. He has softer cheeks, softer nose, softer lips, bigger eyes, small hands. I didn't find any pictures of his naked torso, so I can't see the shape itself, but yeah, that's what I can see by the description. Alright, that was all 13 body types. Let me know if you see that difference. There's one little detail. Many people, they think if two people are very look-alike, they will look good at the same style. And this is why it's wrong, just because the body types are normally completely different. So what looks good on this person won't look good on that person, even though they super look alike. Their facial features can be like super close to each other. Let me know in the comments if you're interested about style for men's body types. For some of you who is interested in my music life, I finally have my recordings for sale. Google Play, iTunes, Amazon. I'm gonna leave the links down below, so thank you so much, guys. Goodbye.